Hello and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April for the Sun or the Ascendant. Now I'm going to give you a broad overview of what to expect before diving deep and exploring each of the 12 zodiac signs in forensic detail. So please stay with me for that analysis. Now the big takeout of this month is that we have two new moons, and when this happens, the second is known as the black moon. The first new moon is on the 1st in the go-getting sign of Aries, but it combines with Mercury, the planet of ideas, the planet of communication. Aries energy is about initiation and fresh starts. Let's hope some fresh energy is coming through in a constructive way for us all. The second new moon is in Taurus, the next sign on from Aries, because the Sun moves on into Taurus on the 20th. Now this one is in a sextile with the ruler of Aries, Mars. But Mars moves into the sign of Pisces on the 15th. Now Mars moving through Pisces can be a very meditative, or our actions can be very much behind the scenes. Sometimes people who are involved in enterprises such as mining or deep sea diving have Mars in Pisces in their natal chart. So we can expect some things going on behind the scenes that could be positive. And Mars is also in a conjunction with Saturn in the first 9 days. Now Mars in Capricorn, as it was, especially in its conjunction with Pluto, which became exact on the 3rd of March, is a very, very challenging influence. And we know that there has been an outbreak of violence in the very heart of Europe, which is deeply troubling. But once Mars moved on the 6th of March into the sign of Aquarius, and now at the start of this month is combining with the co-ruler of Aquarius, Saturn, there's a much greater desire, I think, collectively to try to get things working in a way which may not be perfect, but is certainly better than that real fight for power that has been imposed at, the latter end of February and the early parts of March. And one of the very uplifting parts of this month's energies is that Neptune and Jupiter, the two co-regents of Pisces, are in a conjunction within 3 degrees through the whole month, and on the 12th that becomes absolutely exact. I think that that can be a very healing dimension. I really pray so. Also, Venus moves into Aries on the 5th. Now, Venus in Aries is, to be honest, in detriment. But I actually have always liked Venus in Aries because I think it gives us an impulse to try to relate. To take the first move, not to sit back and wait. So for me, that can be very positive. But on the 11th, Mercury does move from Aries into the sign of Taurus. Now it is going to be clashing with Pluto from the 9th through to the 12th. And that clash of Plutonian energy still in the sign of Capricorn through to 23, part-time goes into Aquarius, then moves into Aquarius in 24, and we really get the start of the Aquarius age, I feel. But we also have the Sun mirroring the right angle with Pluto at the heart of this month, and then that brings in the full moon on the 16th in the sign of Libra. So we have a T-square going between Pluto, the Sun and the moon, and I think that's going to be an interesting point of how there's a pushback against power being used in the wrong way. And the combination of Neptune and Jupiter, which after all, Jupiter is about hope, Neptune can be about healing, but in their home signs, I'm really hoping that there will be a fundamental pushback at the heart of this month, which does see an improvement in Central Europe. Now on the 20th, we do see the Sun, as I mentioned before, moving into Taurus, and then on the 29th, Pluto slams on the brakes. So obviously Uranus was still in retrograde at the start of this year, but this is the first of the big beasts going into their annual retrogrades, and it's going to go on until the 7th of October. This is going to be really interesting, I feel, because the sign of Capricorn is about old power. The sign of Aquarius is much more about taking the best of that old power, but being enlightened about new techniques, being more inclusive. So Pluto going into a retrograde will be interesting for certain political strands in the world. You know, people who've held power in a much more authoritarian way could retreat, or perhaps just reset their purposes. But on the 29th, Mercury does move into its home zone of Gemini, and that can be a really brilliant point for much more communication starting to ping around. Also, the 30th, that wonderful Taurus new moon is in a very positive angle with Mars, suggesting that if we actually take the best of what we already know, or what's been evolving over a very long period of time, which is Mars coming through in its journey, obviously it moves at the heart of this month into the sign of Pisces. So by the end of May, it's going to be readying to go into Gemini, where it's going to be for the rest of the year, because it goes through, and into the first months of next year, because it goes through a retrograde. But I think that what we're going to see as this month comes to a close is much more constructive, workable ways of approaching some of the transitions that may have gone on this month. Now, if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for listening so far. Please, I'd be delighted if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. And if you'd like to get your free written daily horoscope fired to your device each morning, please subscribe on the link below. It'd be great to have you with me. And also, if you'd like to get your 12-month forecast and character analysis based on your time, date and place of birth, and ascend above your zodiac sign and really get much greater understanding of what makes you tick and your potentials in the time ahead, there is 30% off with my special offer. Please see the link for that below too. Hello Capricorn, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April. Of course, we have 2 new moons this month, including that black moon at the end of the month, which is incredibly exciting, and I can't wait to tell you about it. But to begin with, on day 1, we have the new moon in Aries, the first of the year. And of course, this is very much about the new beginning of the astral calendar. But for you, it's house 4, so very much about your environment. Now, the environment is different for each of us. Some people are very happy in a cityscape. Other people like to be somewhere remote and quiet. And most of all, our home really exists deep within our emotions, our feelings. So I think you're going to have an opportunity to think very carefully about this element of your situation over the next 4 weeks. But because Mercury's in the mix, very close to the new moon, if you are or have been working from home but would like to make that more of a permanent feature, Mercury's going to help you to be very adaptable in the first 10 days of this month. Now, of course, your financial situation has come under a degree of pressure over the last 18 months, with your ruler Saturn making its way through the sign of Aquarius, which for you is house 2 and everyday finance. But it's given a boost in the first 9 days of this month by the more robust energies of Mars being allied to Saturn. So that's going to give you an opportunity to really focus on what can be very productive for you. But it is important to narrow that focus so that you're not spreading yourself too thin. You can still get frustrations with Saturn in a conjunction with Mars, and they can be a little bit overwhelming if we try too hard. So I think really the first sort of third of this month, if you keep that focus, but make sure it's working in a smart way and not getting too exasperated if not everything goes to plan, I think that will be the best way to move forwards. But on the 5th, we do have the transition of Venus from your sector of everyday resources, which has probably brought some benefits in the last 28 days, and it moves into the sign of Pisces. Here it joins up with Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces, the traditional ruler, and also Neptune, who are within 3 degrees for the whole of the month. Also, on the 12th, they come into an exact conjunction. So having Venus join in with them means that how you express yourself, your ideas, your thoughts, are really going to be a key part of the story this month. Because on the 15th, Mars, the planet of passion, has broken free from Saturn and then enters your 3rd house, which is Pisces. Don't be surprised if you get a new mode of transport this month. If it is something which is ecologically sound, like a new bike or an electric vehicle, it wouldn't be a surprise. Jupiter can be quite future forwards in its approach. And of course, Mars is to do with thrust. Venus is very much to do with aesthetics, but also relating. Somebody could hang on your every single word this month, but they may not tell you. So watch out for those non-verbal signals and ways that people communicate. But on the 11th, Mercury does move into your sister Earth sign of Taurus. So this gives you Mercury, the North Node, and Uranus all in your 5th house of self-expression. Mercury goes into a conjunction between the 16th and the 20th with Uranus, and your mind can be very, very nimble with this particular collaboration. And if there are innovative ideas that you want to embrace, you're going to have a great opportunity to go with them at that point. However, between the 15th and the 19th, Pluto, which is in your sign, is in a square with the Sun in the sign of Aries. And you may find yourself in some kind of tense drama, possibly from that point to the end of the month, because on the 16th we have the new moon in Libra, which is going to see your feelings pretty close to the surface. So if there is something that's out of kilter between that need for home, emotional security, and the way you interact with the world at large, how you react to it, your energetic response to any rebalancing or realignment that needs to go on, the classic work-life balance could be what you're grappling with. Pluto could see you tempted to react in a very forceful way, and that's probably not going to be a great thing to do. Understand that someone could push back in the way that you do your business in the world, or the way that you relate to people in an emotional sense. But if they do, try to understand that Pluto is very much the planet of transformation. And with the 4th house being very much about your emotions, don't let the pride of the moon in Libra inhibit you from just evolving and knowing that sometimes we do have to change and flex as we go along. And it's not always about being right or coming out on top. It is about just understanding that some people will see things in a different way. But redemption comes in a big way in terms of your energy on the 20th, when the Sun bursts into the sign of Taurus, joining it with Mercury initially, with the node and Uranus. Your physical energy is really going to improve. You're going to feel more outgoing, and all that energy that's manifesting in the sign of Pisces, which is very much to do with your ideas, your connection with neighbours, with siblings, and your love or dislike of technology. It just depends on where you personally come from. All of those things really come to the fore as this month closes. Now, it is true that Pluto goes into a retrograde on the 29th, slowing some more strategic elements of your situation and strands down, possibly. But Mercury moves into its home zone, or one of its 2 home zones of Gemini, on the 29th too. And for you, this is about making things work in a practical way. And your attention to detail and thoroughness, one of your great gifts, are really coming into play and can be to your advantage. But that black moon on the last day of the month is absolutely fabulous because it links into Mars in the sign of Pisces. Mars, which is exalted in your sign because it understands your desire to be very productive, hard-working, applied in the way that you do things. But Mars in the 3rd house is collaborating with the Sun and the Moon in the 5th house, the most joyous and self-expressive part of your scope. And also Venus and Neptune come into a glorious alliance as the month comes to a close, and there could be some surprise exchanges of messages as April closes, but your physical vitality and thrust and enthusiasm for life are really boosted as you go into May, and it can be a very exciting end and beginning of the change of the 2 months.